Besides my wife, there's only two people I have told this to. This is something that has been very difficult for me and weighing on my mind for a while now, ladies and gentlemen. I told a friend of mine named J-Dub about this, and I've also told a friend of mine by the name of Jesus Freak 777, who is a Christian on YouTube, who's been around since the beginning of my YouTube career. He knows that I've been doing this whole non-believer atheist thing for as long as he can remember, and he's even acknowledged to me that he doesn't like to watch my videos because he feels like my videos do not glorify God. They don't glorify the miracles that God has performed in his life as well as other Christians. So he was very stunned whenever I told him what I'm about to tell you all now. Everybody out there who has been subscribed to me, who's watched me, you know that I was a Christian for 15 years. You know that I had once believed so strongly in a God that I was willing to die, if need be, for the belief. And for years afterwards, I've been a non-believer, debating, arguing, doing church phone calls, pretty much doing anything and everything I could to basically shut out Christianity. Shutting the doors, closing the windows, sitting in isolation, and my own darkness, trying to basically build a foundation of non-belief and doubt within myself. So what you're about to hear may surprise you, it may shock you, and some of you may not even believe it, both religious as well as non-believers. But it did happen, and I'm going to share it with you nonetheless. My entire life has been an uphill battle. When I was a Christian, and from the couple transitions I went through as a non-believer, it has been nothing but an uphill battle for me. It got to the point, ladies and gentlemen, in the past couple of years that it started getting tough just to be able to afford groceries, just to be able to afford taking care of bills. My health began to degenerate. Things started to go pretty bad for me, pretty bad for my family. I love my wife and children, and they know that I have struggled hard. I have been through a lot of difficult experiences in my life, a lot of things that if other people went through it or experienced it, they may not be here or been able to endure it whatsoever. It's took a lot of strength and a lot of courage to be able to go through the things that I have, which finally ended up leading into the moment that I'm about to tell you. I had just got done dropping my daughter off at the bus stop, which isn't very far from my home. And then I went and I walked out into the woods, a closed-in area with trees surrounding me. Out in these woods, there's an old run-down bench. It's a place I've went to many, many times in order to think and try to get my mind in order. On this day that I went and sat on the bench, I was convinced that my life was over. I was convinced that there was not one thing that I could do to be able to protect and support my family anymore. I had felt like a failure as a father. I felt like a failure as a man, and I did not feel like there was anything independently as an individual I could do to protect my loved ones from the hardships of what was happening in our lives. So, I sat down on this bench, and I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? It's pretty much over for me. It's game over. There's nothing I can do. I was even contemplating maybe suicide, but I didn't have any idea what my wife and kids would do without me if I made that kind of decision. So out of desperation, out of sadness, out of pure grief and depression, I started doing something that I had not done for years. And I even felt stupid about it. I felt uncomfortable. I felt very awkward because I've spent so many years telling people that prayer does not work. I kept telling people that faith in a God is absolutely foolish and almost on the level of delusional. But there I was sitting on a bench, and I decided to pray. I said, if there is a God and you are listening, if you're out there, then you know that I have a good heart. You know that the reason why I'm skeptical, the reason why I question so, is because I've never received any kind of evidence of any God's existence. And I remember sitting there saying out loud by myself in the woods on this bench that I need help. I can't do things on my own anymore. I have health issues, I have bad problems happening, and there's nothing physically or mentally that I can do at this point to be able to resolve the issues in my life. I love my wife and my children, and I want more for them. And I remember after saying that, I felt still even more stupid, and I stopped for about 10 minutes and just kept saying, why am I doing this for? It's absolutely pointless. And all these doubts started to come into my head, saying things like, why would a God, if it did exist, why would it even answer your prayers? What about all the other people out there in the world that pray and they never seemingly get what they want? As though I could read the minds and be able to know what has happened for every single person out there. Doubts just continued to flood my head, as it always has since I've been a non-believer leaving the religion of Christianity. But I prayed and I prayed, and I sat there and I basically began to weep. I started weeping because I wasn't sure that anything was listening, and I believed that I was just simply doing something silly that I'd done a long time ago when I was religious. I felt like I was basically having a conversation with myself, and that my words were falling on deaf ears. Before I ended my prayer, I had said something very unusual, something very strange that a lot of you wouldn't understand. Some of you don't know what it's like to be in my shoes. Some of you don't know what it's like to be at the bottom of the barrel and not know what you're going to do with yourself or what you're going to do with your life. I literally felt like I was being dragged off along with my family to a grave, almost prepared to be thrown into a hole and then have dirt thrown in my face. So when I got back to my house, I uploaded a video pleading and begging for help. It was humiliating, it was embarrassing for me to sit there and let the world know that I was such a failure as a person that I had to sit there and ask total strangers for assistance, some kind of support. It wasn't expected at all that anyone would do anything, that anyone would even care. All my life I had felt like no one really actually cared about me as a person. They only cared whenever they wanted something from me or they wanted to use me. That's what I felt like because of all the bad experiences I had before my life. Although I have a lot of love in me, I also had a lot of anger and bitterness in me as well. A lot of bad experiences, and almost to the point where I never trusted anybody. I just simply could not trust anybody because of the things that went on in my life. So I uploaded this video, and I felt like total crap. I remember feeling like I had a huge weight on me and stuff, and how stupid, and I just knew that I was going to end up getting comments from people calling me a loser and a piece of crap. And I almost expected that people were going to make videos to me asking me how it feels not to even be a real man and that I was no good as a person. It was expected. But something happened that surprised me. Something happened that blew my mind that I can't explain, and I have a hard time being able to deal with. Almost hours after I posted the video asking for help, money started to basically drop into my PayPal account. There was tons and tons of people out there who were sending me emails to my inbox saying that they had been praying for me and that God is there for me. And then when I went to the PayPal account, there were little messages posted next to each transaction that was being made where people were saying, God bless you, Jesus loves you, and all this kind of stuff all the way down the line. I didn't receive any donations from Muslims. I didn't see any kind of messages from people where they were stating that it came from a pagan deity or from them as paganism. I didn't get anything from Satanists. I got a couple people who were non-believers out there who said they wished the best for me, but 95 to 98% of those donations came from people who were Christian. People who basically believe in Jesus, and it was mind-boggling for me because I realized that I had did a prayer out on a bench asking for God to help me, and here it was, the religious people that I had always argued with and debated with, yelled at and treated like complete and utter crap. They were the ones who had it in them to forgive me for all the things that I've done in my transgressions. So yes, it blew my mind. I didn't know what to say about this. And since then, days have went by, and I have not known how to be able to approach this. I did not know how to say this. And it's weird because I told Christians over and over in the past that if something ever happened or I did receive some kind of evidence or something unexplainable happened, that I would acknowledge it to the world. But here I was, a little man, scared and afraid to be able to tell it like it was. After all the times of boasting, saying that I would come out and I would say something if I actually did receive some kind of evidence of a God. At this moment in time, my family is literally financially out of the woods. We have been able to take care of every single one of our bills. We've been able to take care of a lot of things that were holding us down. A lot of things that have been very difficult, tough for us to be able to handle. And on top of that, I feel relieved. I feel a heaviness that have come off my body as though I had been carrying bricks all over my body, and now all of a sudden I feel light now. I can't explain it. I can't make anybody understand what it is I'm going through. But what I can tell you is this, ladies and gentlemen, and I know that some of you are going to be disappointed. I know that some of you are going to be aggravated with me because you come to my channel to watch a guy who is supposed to be a non-believer who's running his mouth about religion. Well, my problem is this, ladies and gentlemen, is because one of the last things I said on that bench before I walked away from doing that prayer was that if I received some kind of evidence, if I received something, some kind of help, that I would commit my life to whatever God came through for me. And it's pretty clear to me, it's pretty obvious to me that the ones who actually helped me was those I've been arguing with and fighting with ever since. And that would be the Christians. There was no other group of religious people out there that went out of their way to help. There were a handful of non-believers, and there was a couple people who did some things without leaving a message at all, so it's no telling who it came from. It could have been anybody. But 95 to 98% of those messages that were sent to me along with donations were from people who were saying that Jesus is looking out for you, Jesus loves you, God is here for you, and so on and so on. I had basically made a promise, ladies and gentlemen, that if something happened, I would commit myself. It was never expected that anything would happen, though. I expected that I would be sitting in a deep, dark hole, having dirt thrown in my face, and burying my family along with me. I never thought in 100 years that anything would ever happen. I was wrong.